working. So I watched the entire series of Arcane on Netflix. So for those of you who
As
don't
did
know,
I.
uh, yeah, Arcane is the uh, League of Legends animated series, and I'm not sure how connected to the actual lore is on anything. But
I can
so
interested to that.
if it's canonical, I can kind of see it being canonical to a certain extent. But essentially, it's just an excuse to throw Jinx up as their poster girl, which she always has been since from everything I've ever seen. I mean, they did the old music video with her in it, uh,
She was one of
which
the
I remember.
first, yeah.
Yeah, I remember just watching this music video, being like, "Wow, I didn't know League of Legends." So I'm like, "This seems like a really good student project," and I'm like, "Oh wait, never mind." It's I later found out this is actually part of League of Legends. All right, that makes more sense now. Um, so, did you're the actual one who got me into League of Legends long ago. So
I tried. It didn't really work very well. I didn't realize.
I'm
I
bad.
I remember when I showed you that, and I was like, okay, let's like because I really wanted somebody that I could play with, um, you know, pretty regularly. But like when I was showing you, I was like, I didn't realize how much time you have to put into this game before you're the least iota of competent, and it's really weird. It's a weird game. It's really boring until you're like, oh, I kind of get it, and then you're just addicted, and then you're like, I have to stop. Um, but yeah, like I played. I used to play League of Legends. Played it for like a year, 2 years, somewhere in there. Pretty solidly. Got to silver. Um, so wasn't really ever very good, but I did enjoy a lot of the art and some of the lore. When I first started playing was like 2014 or so, and they had just did this really big uh what do you call it? Uh
Balance patch
well, they
or
do brown
update?
balances all the time, but this was a retcon. They just did a big
Oh, okay.
retcon, and so they retconned a bunch of stuff and changed a bunch of lore around, and they had this really nice like essay post of where they were saying we're kind of doing this to kind of prepare for the future and stuff like that. And so whenever Arcane, this show came out, um, that I heard that they'd been working on it for about 6 years, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, so that would have been about 2014, 2015, whenever they did that big retcon. And then this comes out. I was like, okay, so they've been working on this since the retcon. I think that's kind of the me putting two and two together there, but it kind of shows because this show is really well made, and kind of just about the you because you're asking about the lore. If you play if you play League of Legends, you recognize a lot of the characters immediately because the main characters are some of the oldest characters.
I was
Jace.
say the character. Yeah, I was saying the characters were obvious, but I just want to know like the dynamic of it because for I guess before you get into the character models and stuff or the individually, I was going to quick give a lowdown on the series as a whole,
Well,
just a synopsis. So it's essentially
okay.
Arcane is the setting is there's the you have like the upper town, which is all like like the rich and wealthy, high class society, and then you have to go to a bridge and then go down to the lower lanes, as they call it, and that is where like the slums are. And so it's a class. The whole concept is it's like the warring classes essentially, the haves and have nots, and it's that is the gist of like the bare bones of what it's going on. So some and uh incidents happen, things ensue, technology advances, and people fight each other. That's legitimately it. But uh of course they end up the way they bring into some of the some of the phrasing terms, like I said, they call multiple
Oh, hang on.
times.
Hey, can you say that again? I think I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're like, they end up saying like, sometimes the way they bring in their terms, like we got to protect the lanes, like, well, the lanes, like if you never played It sounds really odd when you say it just by itself because they never refer to the lower area as you know the lanes. So like, oh, but I played a little bit of it, so that I get what they're saying now. Uh,
When do they
but
say that?
oh, the 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 father figure, the bartender dude.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, the
Okay, yeah.
Doomfist, but Doomfist is from Overwatch, so I don't know what his name is in League of Legends because I forgot it. Um, but yeah, he ends up he mentioned it a couple times about the lanes, and I'm like, okay, that makes like I understand the term, and I find it funny that you used it. And so I was waiting for someone to bring in the jungle at one point, but no one ever talked about the jungle, which I was disappointed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't really catch that about the lanes, because like the lane stuff is sort of uh, a gimmick of the game, but they don't like, but like top lane, middle lane, and bot lane are specific things, and I mean, I guess they could have worked it in, but I don't know. I like past those first couple episodes, I don't remember them ever saying it, you know, past that, so it didn't really stick out to me, I guess. But I mean, as
I
far
can't remember what episodes they were in because I ended up binge watching most of it in like a
yeah.
day. I think I finished it in like 2 days. The art was fucking amazing. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of interesting stuff about this. Like, it seems the animation seems like some kind of rotoscoping going on because it's really detailed in a way that an artist it would be very expensive to make tiny, minute, like flip of the hand details, and they don't usually do that. And the characters kind of look a little, they walk a little bit too real, honestly. Um, so so I think it's some kind of a rotoscoping, but it looks really really good. A lot of it, where it is purposefully animated, is really really awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, like I actually kind of found this show sort of boring early on. I was really bored by it in the first couple episodes, third episode. And then after that, I kind of figured out what I was watching and I started to enjoy it a lot more. And I started to watch it like a live action show because it's slowly paced like that. When I was watching it like an anime at the beginning, I was like, this kind of sucks as far as like pacing and stuff goes. But once I started watching it like a live action, I was like, okay, this makes more sense. And then when the when there's like fight scenes and stuff, that's where they really make big good use of the animation because they can go really hard on the fight scenes and go kind of Super Saiyan, and it still feels sort of real because they've grounded everything else in reality, but they can jack it up and make the fight scenes really cool, which I think they did a pretty good job of, honestly.
Yeah, they did a good job with animating like explosions and smoke effects. Things like that that are generally pretty difficult to do. And yeah, you're right. Though I don't know how much rotoscoping would be done because, well, just because their character models are almost a caricature or something like that because they're very lanky and very uh, oddly proportioned in a lot of ways.
Mm.
It's very stylized. So like I said, I generally really like the animation. I kind of felt the other opposite way though. It's like I was interested in the beginning, and then as it went on, I'm like, I kind of checked out, and that's why I was just like, all right,
That's
I'm
weird.
just in it to finish it at this point. I no longer care, and I was just like, it had me intrigued in the beginning. I wasn't necessarily always like, I was just like, I'm curious how they're gonna do this. This is neat, huh? Okay, I see the points they're making, and like I hear the terms that they're using. That's funny. And then as it progressed, I'm like, their character development, character motivations. I'm like, nah, you guys suck. Like without it, I was like, I no longer care, and I'm just gonna see how it ends.
Like
And
like why do you
yeah,
think that? Because I was like I don't really care about these kids. I mean, I know the characters, I know who they're going to be, and I don't really care about them as kids. But I thought it set it up really well for why Jinx became the way that she did, and kind of the relationships that they ended up having. I was kind of like, I wonder how they're going to get to that point. But I thought they did a really good job of bringing them forward into what they are in the game, you know. Um, so I,
Yeah, but Jinx, I like maybe because I just don't care about her as the poster child for League of Legends, but the way they set her up in this, I guess slight spoilers for like the first handful of episodes. Um, after she's triggered essentially, and then she's so easily like she accidentally murders a bunch of people. And it's like, and so then afterwards she like her quote unquote sister is like upset with her and walks away. And then the moment the bad guy comes around, instead of just wasting her, he embraces her, and she's like immediately she's like, my new family member, boom, instantly, like no second thoughts to it. And
that's
then the
fair.
rest
Yeah.
of the time with her, she's like, I'm unstable. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't care.
Well, I mean,
It reminds me of that Japanese archetype of anytime you see a Japanese story where there's like a battle royale or some sort of like kids murdering each other, there's always that one character who's just psychotic for psychotic's sake, like, I'm just gonna kill you, and I'm unpredictable. Look at my crazy eye. It's just kind of that's the situation, and she's just like, I don't know. For those of you who don't know, or if you've played Borderlands, think Tiny Tina, but not funny and just more bigger and murder hungry. I guess she's
hmm.
just very schizophrenic. Uh,
Yeah, I think they were trying to meet the character that is in the game, and they were having trouble to get to that point. Um, so yeah, like she does that part. I did kind of feel the same way. It's like okay, uh, she sort of forgets her family at that point early on, and then gets into like the bad, like in with the bad people. And so they're
oh,
sort of like,
question:
what?
the guy who raises her, is he an active member of League of
I
Legends?
haven't played League of Legends in 3 or 4 years. And they add new characters every couple months. So they could have added him and their dad and like the love
I was
interest
wondering
for
if they've ever
Jace.
retired people. That's why, because I was curious. It's like, oh, I'm like, especially since you were talking about that whole retconning things, a handful of years ago. I'm like, okay, that might make sense. If they ever retired old members, then I can kind of see this old guard being switched to a newer, quote unquote, newer guard in the story. I can see maybe that reflecting the actual game.
I don't think that they've retired anybody yet. Like the way the game kind of deals with that is just by nerfing characters and buffing characters, and like there's only like 15 champions. So it's a 5v5, and there's only like 15 champions that are viable, and whenever they play, 5 of them get banned, or the top 5 are always banned, and then they have a few more bans than that. So they don't really ever get to play with S tier champions. They only ever get to play with like A tier champions. So anyway, that's kind of a tangent, but they I don't think that they've ever removed any champions yet. So um,
Okay.
yeah, that's not been retired or anything like that.
Because like I said, there was a handful of people in that series that could have easily been like old guard. I figured small Professor Man was still active,
Heimerdinger,
but
yeah.
yeah, but both of the parents, parental figures, and even the old scientist, I'm like, all three of those could easily have been like old members or something, like from a, even a prior, if it was something like if there was a sequel number, I'm like, oh, that could have been from a previous number. I can kind of see that, or a beta version. Um, but yeah, that's why I was just curious. It was,
Yeah.
the series itself,
Well,
it's all right, you
like
know.
I was just gonna say that like Jace is kind of one of the other main characters, and it's like okay, so I know Jace is, um, and then they introduce kind of his science partner, as it goes on, and then they don't really say his name, and then finally introduces himself. And he's like, oh, like he's like, my name is Victor, and then you go, oh shit, okay, because like Victor is definitely on the opposite side, I guess, of what Jace is in the game, which is in the future of this show. So there's kind of little nice little moments like that where it's like, and then I was pretty sure like there's a little black kid in it, and I was like, that is probably Echo because that kid is black and has white hair, and that's Echo. But yeah, like it's it's a good series. It's a good series so far. I think I'm definitely looking forward to season two.